Here's what nobody tells you when you start learning guitar theory. Knowing more theory does not automatically make you a better guitar player. So, let's learn why and throw a couple of tricks under your fingers to make your guitar solos better no matter how much theory you know. If you don't know, my name is Ryan Gahn. I've been helping guitar players for over 2 decades, really bridges the gap between their creative ideas and what they're able to play, becoming fully fretboard fluent. If you would, please hit the subscribe and bell notification to get more videos on how to make your guitar playing better. All right, so maybe you know a ton of scales. Maybe you only know the minor pentatonic. Maybe you know all the modes, chord tones, arpeggios, the entire fretboard, whatever it is that you know, whatever stage in theory. You still sound a little bit bland. I mean, I'm certainly not saying anything there. You know, nothing interesting is coming out. But all of the notes were technically right, you know? Just nothing interesting. Now, I could take the same grouping of notes and actually say something. Now, whether you really dug that example or not is not the point. The point is that I took the same information and am now saying something. So let's go through a couple of these ideas. By the end of the video, you'll understand how to turn your theory into musical language, right? Turning the theory that you know, that information, into your own musical voice. So, I mean, the first place that we get stuck is just the sort of assumption that knowing the right notes to play means you'll know what to do with them, and that is not the case. Theory tells you what's available, but it's the expression that dictates what you do with it. So if we think about language, you know, thousands upon thousands of words and even phrases, you know, in the English language, but that's not going to make me a great storyteller. And the guitar works the same way. You can memorize every note on the fretboard and still have absolutely no idea what to do with it and nothing interesting to say. All right, so we don't need more vocabulary. We don't need more information. We need to become better speakers with the vocabulary that we already have. So I'm going to go in stages from where we generally are at this point, which is... Now, I'm just using the minor pentatonic there. We can do the same thing with Dorian, which is usually what happens. We get stuck in that minor pentatonic and we think, oh man, I need more modes, you know, or I need the next position of the minor pentatonic, like that's going to save us. You know, we all think that. But that's not the case. In fact, that's going to confuse us more because we don't know how to speak with these sort of smaller amount of words, vocabulary, and we're trying to jam more in there and we get a little bit overwhelmed, you know? Just like when you think you could speak a language in another country, I'm saying this is something that happened to me, and then you go to that other country and you're just like, oh my God, I can't keep up. I can't keep up with everybody. So let's do this. I'm not even going to put a backing track on. I'm going to make this really easy. Whatever mode, scale, whatever it is that you're working on, this tactic will work. But if I just take this, that's all I'm doing, okay, in my minor pentatonic, my A minor pentatonic. Now, if I play that twice, it's not very exciting, but it's certainly something versus right? I have a little bit of breath, some phrasing there. Now, what I was playing earlier, and then using the same grouping of notes to actually say something, comes with what I do with it. And it's amazing how can very easily turn into... All right, I added a little bit of a rake there, you know, sort of palm muting up here, get that sound into that first note. Held the first note a little long. Not every note bled right into the next. Cut that one off. and then bent a little bit up on that flat 3. Now, if you do not know yet, that root note is your safe place, right? That's your resolve. That's down here. So if I land on a note, especially the flat 3 or the flat 7 in this scale, that's going to drive tension up. So I can really lean into that tension, right? Knowing that that's my tension note. Now, if I take that phrase and say, all right, tension, I'm going to bring this tension down and release it. Simply by adding my root note. What I'm doing now is creating a motif. When we have something that repeats, we're getting into the familiarity part of the guitar solo. There's nothing familiar here. Nobody has anything to grab onto. If I play that twice, it's like, ooh, I'm getting some familiarity here, and I'm ending with a tension, and then I'm resolving it. So now the familiarity has a direction where it's not exactly the same thing, right? I've given you the tension, and now I'm resolving it by just adding that root note. And I'm giving you a much better dynamic feel, right? If I know I want that tension to scream, I can give that and maybe a little bit of bend. Maybe the next time I could play those a little bit differently. And the main component is going to be that rhythm, right? Getting away from... That's how that phrase started. Not a very interesting rhythm, but... Okay, that's a way better rhythm. Right, you can almost groove to it. So we've taken, changed the rhythm, give it a much better dynamic feel, cutting a couple of the notes a little bit short, extending them, etc., giving a little bit of a bend there, and then creating a motif by just playing it twice. Let it breathe. And saying, okay, now I'm going to give it a call and response. It's a tension. I'm going to bring it down. There's so much in there. So, can you come up with your own? And the best part is, when you're doing this, you can change it however you want. When we start getting really good at this, I could have my first one, and then my next one, just sort of all I did was just add a couple of notes in the beginning, or I'm sorry, in the middle there, So now I'm changing and moving some notes around, and it's unbelievable when you start doing this how different you can get one lick, just a couple notes. That's it. All of these licks can start getting better by changing the rhythm, right? So coming up with something with a real basic rhythm, changing the rhythm around. Cool. All right, get a little bit of a dynamic feel, loud, soft. And then moving forward, if I want to create that motif, and then start changing the lick itself. You do that much with it. And now we've taken a very basic idea and come up with so much expression. Same information, way more expression. Now it really comes down to stop trying to find in the weeds the correct phrase. You already have them. They're already there. You just have to learn how to manipulate them and make them expressive. And this is where it gets a little bit personal, because there isn't one correct way that a phrase should sound. It's what players do you love? What do you love about their playing? What do you want your playing to feel like? If I gave any one of these examples to David Gilmour or John Mayer, Eddie Van Halen, or B.B. King, certainly not getting the same result. They're making different musical decisions based on their personal expression. And that's the part that generic education has a really hard time with. Because developing your voice isn't about somebody just telling you, like, here's the right lick. It's learning what you want to do with your creative voice, how you respond to certain sounds, and then developing that ability to create them just all around, just like the way that you speak. You're not getting tricked by what to say or how you want to say it. One really simple way to start doing this is to understand this balance. When we talk about familiar enough to sound intentional, new enough to stay interesting. And there's a million different ways that you can do that. So if we go back to that, there's my motif, I can repeat it. And then resolve. Okay, great. If I play it again, I'm going to start maybe overplaying that. It's great that we have familiarity, because what does this not give us? No familiarity. We're just sort of like jumbling around, and we're looking as humans for those patterns. Now I have the pattern. I even have the pattern with a resolve. That's great. If I do it again, is it going to start getting a little too... what does this give us? The same rhythm. So now if I'm playing... maybe... that is a much longer lick. So it's going to sound a little bit, it's going to be a breakaway from what I did before. Right? These are much longer. Whatever it was that I played there. That's going to get a little bit longer now, and it's going to have a faster rhythm. So now we're taking something that was familiar and then breaking completely away from it because we need something new. And then I can repeat that new lick that's faster, completely different rhythm, moves further down the fretboard, right, all the way from here to here, does repeat itself with a couple of changes in there to make it a little bit new. Now I'm really developing and telling a story by constantly playing the familiar and constantly playing the new, going back and forth and getting used to feeling that. If I were to sit here and say, I'm Ryan Gahn. I've been playing guitar for 20 years. I go to Berklee College of Music. I live in Los Angeles. At some point, you're going to say, okay, dude, like you have to stop just saying I for every sentence. It's going to sound too monotonous. But if what I imagine, like a little kid tugging on your sleeve, kind of saying like, guess what I did this weekend? Guess what my brother did? Guess what I ate for lunch? And it's just like, whoa, none of those things have anything to do with the last thing. And then we get lost. Both of them have utility and boringness, right? There's boringness in both of those. So we're constantly going back and forth. So if you can take all of the things that we talked about here and really pay attention to familiar, new, you're going to be on your way to such amazing guitar solos. And with all of this is why having somebody who actually understands your artistic vision, what you want to do with your playing, and accelerate it so much, right? Not someone that's just saying like, here's another scale. Oh, when you're playing a 1 and 4, you're going to be playing a Dorian, whatever. Just, it's like math tests at that point, right? It's somebody asking like, what are you trying to sound like? What do you want to feel like? Why isn't your playing getting there? What needs to change? It's a huge part of what I do with the players that I work with. I'm not just giving them more information. We're developing their voice. So, if you know the theory, you've been playing for years, you still don't sound the way that you want to, I have a free training. It's called 3 Steps to Full Fretboard Fluency. That is in the description and in the first comment. I would love for you to check it out for free. And if you are interested in working with me personally, there is also a link to book a call that is in the description as well. You can do so. The call is absolutely free. Just go over a little bit of a framework, figure out where you are and where you want to be in your playing. I appreciate you staying till the end of the video, and I will see you in the next one.